And here are the players in the London Chess Classic, the third leg of the Grand Chess Tour. Magnus Carlsen from Norway, current world champion, arguably one of the best players that ever lived. Fabiano Caruana from the United States, top grandmaster in the world. If you remember, Fabiano just ran through the competition in the Singfield Cup. My buddy from the United States as well, Carl Nakamura. Great player. Carl is just an amazing player. I'm a little biased because I like a Carl, but I'll tell you, he's going to be playing in the candidates final in March. We'll see. And Veselin Topalov from Bulgaria, former world champion. It's funny, they wrote off the old guys like Kramnik and Topalov, and here they are back on top again. I believe Topalov is now number 2 in the world. Alexander Grischuk from Russia, very underrated player. Alex is always in the top in the world. If you just can control his time trouble addiction, I think Alex can go a long ways. And of course, former world champion from India, Viswanathan, I believe 6-time world champion. He was counted out when he lost to Magnus Carlsen, and then he won the candidates final to play Carlsen again. He did lose that rematch, but it's no slouch to win the candidates final after losing the world championship, but he did it. Great player. Anis Giri from the Netherlands, top world-class player. Anis is pretty young. I don't even think Anis is 22 years old yet. He's one of the world-class players. Levin Aronian from Armenia, top world-class players. I think, frankly, one of the people that are playing right now is some of the strongest in the world that never played for the World Championship, and that's Levin Aronian. Really nice guy, classy guy, too. And Michael Adams from England. I like Mickey a lot. He's an interesting guy. He's really intense when he's playing, but if you see him in interviews, he's the calmest, most collected guy there is. Great player from England. And Maxime Vichet-Lagrave from France, MVL as they call him, another world-class player. Maxime was having a hard time for about a year or so, lost some rating points, but he's on the way back. Look out for Maxime, because I'll tell you, he's one of the top statisticians in the game. Anyway, folks, there's the lineup for London Chess Classic, the last leg of the Grand Chess Tour. Hi, folks, John Cordisco back again. Another game from round 1 of the 7th annual London Chess Classic 2015. The third leg of the Grand Chess Tour. Originally started out in Norway. Leg 2 was here in the United States in St. Louis at the Singfield Cup. And this is the third leg. Great world-class players. I think out of the top 10, they have 8 out of the top 10 players. Anyway, this is one of those games, folks, where it's a heartbreaker. It's a heartbreaker. We've all had it where we've had our opponent, and he just slips away. Anyway, let's get to it. Round 1 action as white from Russia, Alexander Grischuk. Great player. I like Alex a lot. I think he's extremely underrated. And my buddy from the United States, Carl Nakamura. You know, I got high hopes for Carl. And I like Caruana as well. He's a U.S. player, too. Both of those guys are going to be in March of next year in the candidates final. And I'll tell you, as an American who was alive as a young boy and got in the chess because of Bobby Fischer in 1972, I'm waiting a long time for this. One of those guys has got to make it to the final, and I'm hoping it's going to be a Carl. Nothing against Fabiano. If he makes it, that's okay too. And let's get to it. Grischuk is white, Nakamura is black. It's going to be a real Ope, a Berlin. Now, don't roll your eyes at the Berlin. This is a really weird Berlin. And I'll tell you, we've seen a lot of different variations of the Berlin, and they make some fascinating end games and middle games. Let's go through it here. We all pretty much know the Berlin. Pawn takes, knight. Queen takes, king takes, h3. King moves again. It seems counterproductive to move the king again, but not really. Knight c3, bishop e6. g4 to kick the knight, and that goes back to e7. Knight here. Now, according to the computer, that's the last book move. Kramnik has really started something. I mean, with his Berlin. Bishop d7. King h2. Interesting move there. And you're going to see this gets really wild. c5. Kicks the knight. Knight goes here. King moves again. And it's not a ton of lost tempos, oddly enough. Black's still okay. It's just one of those deals that Berlin is what it is. And I'll tell you, it looks like white has all the chances, and they just don't. Bishop e3. Give you an idea, my Fritz computer's on off screen. It's maybe a quarter pawn advantage for white. a6. Knight to a3. It's going to start getting crazy here soon, folks, so don't turn off the video. b6 to reinforce the pawn. Knight to e4. Black looks awful cramped, but he's really okay. h5. Open it up a little bit. Here we go. What to do, what to do. Knight g3, or excuse me, king g3. H takes. H takes. Now, we have something here. We have a file. Open on the king. See if we can make the best of it. Bishop c6. Knight goes to g5. Threatened, of course. Knight takes f7, forking the king and the rook. The king moves again, which is the computer's choice. The second choice is bishop b8. But really, black's okay. f4. Here come the white pawns. Now this is a shot out of the blue. A shot out of blue, and this is typical of Carl. Open things up. He's really cramped. Computer likes knight to d5, and I do as well. But that's not good enough for Carl. f5, right out of the blue. And that's just a shot. What to do, what to do? Take in passant, leave it. Grischuk decides to go rook a to d1. Just develop a piece, get your rook in the game. g6. Well, he's got a very active position here, but I think black's okay. Now the computer is showing it as dead even. Knight e6. Not so good. Computer didn't like that move that much. Now this is where things start getting a little crazy. Pause the video now and see if you can find a really, really good move. Not a winning move, but a really good move that you would never thought of in a million years for black. Tough to find, but our first instinct is just to move the rook on a8 to avoid the check on c7 and picking up the exchange. Pawn takes g4. Here we go. Let's just take a look at this for a second here. This bishop is controlling some key squares. This rook is coming down. This knight can come up. It's not so safe for white. He takes the pawn anyway. Only move, f7. e6 check. If king had taken the pawn, rook to a7, e6, king to g8. And look at white's king. Yeah, he's up a pawn, but I wouldn't want to be white. After e6 check, king goes back to g8. f6, king to f6 was not the best in the world, because after king takes g4, knight to f5, bishop f2, knight h6 check. King goes back to g3, and he's fine. It's even game. King goes back to g8, king takes the pawn. Knight takes the rook is no good, because after knight checks, king f2, rook h2 check, king e1, knight takes, and black is winning. Not only is he forking both the rooks, but his knight on a8 is still in pre. King takes, rook a7. Let's go back here. That's the computer's best move. But I could have hoped for something better here, but it's just not here. Rook to a7, rook to d7, knight to f5, closing in on the black king. King to f2, guarding that spot. Because we all saw that rook here is curtains. King has to come up, but bishop mates. It'll eventually be mate. Bishop to f2, knight checks, king g3, knight checks, king up, bishop e7, cutting off some squares around white's king. Grischuk brings the other rook over. Knight h6 check. Now instead, if he had gone to f8, after knight to c4, rook h5, rook checks, bishop takes, rook takes, king to e7, it's still okay for black, but this is really messy. After knight to h6, king to g3, he checks, king to g4, he checks. He really couldn't see any other way of doing it. Rook h7, knight c4, and now I do have to say, if something really strange happens in this game, Alexander Grischuk is a time control junkie. He just uses up all his time and he scrambles at the end constantly. Hikaru at this point was down to less than a minute, and Grischuk had about 7 minutes. Very, very unusual situation. So I think Hikaru, seeing they had no time, decided to just go ahead and do the perpetual, and that's the way it worked out. I thought it was a hell of a try by Hikaru. He was going for it, and Grischuk had to be on his toes. One miscue would have lost the game. I could tell that Hikaru was just disgusted how things worked out. But he tried. He gave it, and that's typical Hikaru. He goes for it. Aggressive. Anyway, folks, that's one of the great games from the 7th annual London Chess Classic, the third leg of the Grand Chess Tour. I hope you enjoyed it. Look for other videos from this tournament, one of my favorite tournaments. And I do want to recall, I hope they play. I know they play every year in early December. December 9th is Karl Nakamura's birthday, so hopefully he can play a game and win, and we'll go over it here on my YouTube channel. I want to thank all my new subscribers. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate it. And also all the views I've been getting. So most of my videos. I have over 500 videos now, and they're fun to do, and I hope they're fun to watch. And as I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.